Zombies! Has anyone done a movie about that yet? We've had zombies and zombievers, but nobody's been able to figure out zombies yet. Okay, I just looked it up, and it seems like someone did make a short movie of the idea of zombies in 2008, but that's not enough. If there's any aspiring directors out there, please use this concept, use this idea, and I don't want it to be good. But you need to genuinely try to make it good, like how the original Sharknado was, where they took it all super seriously and genuinely wanted to make a good movie. That's when they become so bad they're good. But anyway, have you ever heard of Derren Brown? I'm not really sure about how big this guy actually was, because I watched him all of the time, but he's a self-described psychological illusionist, because all of the shows that he did were about using subliminal messaging to influence or just straight up trick somebody into doing or thinking whatever he wants them to. There's one where he uses subliminal messaging on somebody's walk to work to convince them to steal a bunch of money. There's another one where he again uses subliminal messaging and like social pressure to make somebody push somebody else off of a roof. But today, we will be looking at my personal favorite, the first thing of his that I had ever seen, the Apocalypse episode, where he chose one guy to convince that the entire world had ended and it had been taken over by zombies. And immediately as the show starts, Derren lays down exactly why he's doing this. The guy he has selected for this experiment, this guy, Steven, who they also just immediately start bullying.
Before creating the apocalypse, I need to find the right candidate. Someone who currently leads a self-centered existence.
Steven takes things for granted. He takes life for granted. He takes everybody for granted.
Steven can act like a strawberry teenager still.
To me, he should be a man and he should be more grown up.
But to be fair, he does just waltz into the living room and change the channel that other people are already watching.
Every fight is the same, isn't it? No, every fight is the same. That girl the other day wanted to get married.
Which is honestly all I need to see to want this guy to go through the end of the world. But as much as I really want to believe that he did that scream and he really is just a petulant man-child, just listen to it again. I didn't touch that. It seems like they just threw in a random scream soundbite to make it seem like he was more of a prick. You could get away with that stuff in 2012 when people couldn't rewind and listen to stuff again, but not anymore. I'm onto you. But yeah, Derren chose this guy because he is completely ungrateful for everything and everybody around him. He has absolutely no drive to get his shit together and move out of his parents' house.
It is quite upsetting, and I'd love him to change his attitude. I'd love him to appreciate me. I'd love him to love me more, because sometimes I feel he doesn't love me.
But that is just a brutal thing to hear from your mum, and if anything, that alone should be enough for you to have the motivation to sort your life out. So the base concept is that they want to make this guy believe that the end of the world has happened so that he learns to appreciate everything a lot more. But Derren has been following him, like literally everywhere, getting his routine down and installing 19 hidden cameras around their house so they can monitor him more effectively.
So with the help of his family, my crew is installing 19 hidden cameras in and around his house.
And in the audition process, they installed a hypnosis trigger. This is real. They installed and embedded a hypnosis trigger inside of this man so that they can knock him out and move him to where they need him to be, or if he starts to freak out too much during the experiment, they could just put him to sleep and it's all over and it's okay. Imagine having a panic attack while surrounded by zombies and then this random guy runs up to you and just puts you to sleep. I mean, I'd think I was dead. The last thing that anybody sees is just Derren Brown with a pocket watch trying to put you to sleep. And after he searches Steven's room and bullies him a bit more...
This is the room of somebody who doesn't have a lot of order or control over their life.
It's time for the setup. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of setup that needs to be done for all of this. They've decided to use the yearly Perseid meteor shower as the perfect basis for the end of the world to happen. So they need to bring up Steven's fear of a possible meteor strike. Derren needs to plant the seeds for all of this by gaining control over all of the news and media that Steven consumes. So he gets Steven's brother to steal his phone in the middle of the night and they hack it so that they can plant whatever news articles they want, any social media threads, everything that he sees is controlled by them. But it isn't just a phone. No. That would be much too simple. Derren also gets the presenters of XFM, which is Steven's favorite radio show. He gets them to start talking about the end of the world as well on live radio, as well as the hosts of Sunday Brunch with a fake space scientist man talking about how there is the possibility of an asteroid hit, whilst also planting the seeds that they have alien bacteria on them, or potentially some kind of virus. And Steven is already starting to get quite worried about all of this because Why wouldn't he? They're planting fake news articles, fake NASA research info, even fake tweets from Brian Cox.
So it will look like Brian has tweeted this. Apologies, Brian, if you're watching this. I hope you don't mind.
They're getting the radio to him at random cafes he goes to, setting up fake homeless dudes with the end is nigh signs. But it still doesn't stop there. At the cafe, the radio presenters are talking about how the asteroids are messing with electronics, causing electromagnetic disturbances that have been messing up airports and stuff. And to further make all of that seem real, they keep randomly bricking Stephen's phone and messing up the signal in the family house. Then his dad breaks his car, so the Plantic mechanic arrives and tells him that the asteroids have been affecting loads of other cars in that area. How much do you have to piss off your family for them to break your car and gaslight you into 2012? All of this stuff has been drip-fed over a few weeks, so now Stephen is fully convinced of all of this. Every aspect of his life in some way has been affected by this supposed fake meteor shower. So on the 31st of August 2012, for Stephen alone, the world ended. It's also funny to note that this is the day before Stephen's birthday, so he's going to be even more emotionally destroyed by this. He was one day off from getting Skylanders Giants, but his family lured him in with a lie about having tickets to see his favourite band, The Killers. And even in 2012, whose favourite band was The Killers? And throughout the journey, they obviously have 8 people following him with hidden cameras and fake newspapers. 8 people were on this guy at all times, and he had no idea. I wonder how easy it would be to tell if you were being followed like that. Like, do you honestly think that you would notice something like that? If they're being super covert and stealthy, blending into the crowd Assassin's Creed style? But they obviously aren't actually going to a concert. Instead, they're going to
a 1,000-acre former nuclear weapons site that we've rigged with over 60 hidden cameras, 150 microphones, and 2,000 meters of cable.
Okay, I'd at least like to think that I'd be able to sense something is wrong when I'm on a bus for 2 hours going down some spooky-ass roads to a former nuclear testing facility. Then the bus breaks down and they hear this over the radio.
A statement from the government has been released saying that a meteorite collision with Earth is imminent.
The meteor, Swift A, is predicted to collide with the British Isles imminently.
They've also, of course, rigged that entire road with explosives to make it seem like asteroids are landing all around them. And bro's just sitting there. There's literally a family cowering next to their burning car, surrounded by explosives, people are dying, and he doesn't have a single emotion on his face. But it's okay because Derren knocks him the f*** out with a single movement. And that alone is terrifying to me. Imagine getting into a fight with Derren Brown and he just waves his hands around a bit and wins instantly. But he does this because this is one of the moments in the experiment where they have to move Stephen to a more secure and controlled location because they obviously can't have an entire city going along with this experiment. They moved him to a hospital and set up a bunch of rotten food and stuff to make him believe that a lot of time had passed, which is very Walking Dead 28 days later of them. There's also a fake emergency broadcast playing which expositions at us and lets Stephen know that there are safe zones in Scotland and Wales. None in England apparently, so I guess we're all dead because I mean, to be fair, exterminating all of the British people might not be the worst thing in the world. But those safe zone borders are closing in 2 days. He also learns a bit more about what he's actually up against.
It's been noted that once infected, an individual cannot be reasoned with. If you believe someone to be infected, do not approach them. They're classified as highly dangerous and prone to extreme and uncontrollable violence, behaviour, sweat, saliva and other bodily fluids.
He is ready to cry and they've got jump scares going on around him. I just lay down and accept death at that point. If I thought for just 1 second that I was dealing with running zombies, that's it. There's nothing you can do against that. But yeah, Derren has set up multiple actors whose key role it is to force Stephen to either become more responsible, courageous, or decisive. And it's here where he meets responsibility in the form of Leona, who is designed to make him take care of her. She explains her whole backstory and how she just wants to find her mum, basically. So now, Stephen already has the worst thing that you could possibly have in the zombie apocalypse. A child. He takes her with him, and I'm not fully convinced that it's not just so he can use her as a human shield. Because I would. Them kids. And this is where Stephen has his first encounter with an infected.
Is he okay?
Just stop her from knocking, man. I mean, where are your survival instincts? Be quiet. But because of that, they're being chased by a few zombies now, and to him, they're literally sprinting for their lives. And yet, somehow, this little girl is moving faster than him. But after that, they meet Ian, who represents decisiveness and leadership, who picked them up from an ambulance, and since Steven doesn't know how to close doors apparently, he almost gets them killed right there. And one completely understandable mini panic attack later, he's at the compound that is supposedly completely safe. And at this compound, there's a message board of missing persons, and Steven finds himself, which means that his family actually could still be alive. But they all went to Wales, and Ian, who is the only guy he knows that has a working car, is going up to Scotland. Ian is also just waiting around on this compound until his wife arrives, and then they're planning on just heading up to Scotland together. That's why he's still here and hasn't already set off on his journey. But the first step for them is to get a shortwave radio so they can send out an emergency broadcast and hopefully get some help. The only issue being that the radio is not on the compound and is in another building that is completely surrounded by infected. And to my surprise, Steven actually volunteers himself to go get it with Ian. Character development is already coming into effect. Stealth didn't work, so they run into the building and meet Danny, who represents Heart. Danny has the radio that they need, but he's desperate for food and water, so he tries to convince Steve and Ian to let him join them back at the compound. To which Steven says,
I can't leave him. What? I can't leave him.
Why?
We want to take him with us. We're gonna have to.
in an apocalypse, you absolutely can leave him behind. This experiment would have been so much funnier if Steven turned out to just be your average raider in any zombie game. As soon as he realizes that there's no laws anymore, he just goes absolutely feral. The plan for the experiment now is for Ian to pull back from his leadership role and force Steven to take over and start calling the shots. And story-wise, this is because they lose the ambulance because there's too many infected around him, so Ian kind of starts to shut down because his one shot at getting to the safe zones is now just gone. And why hasn't anybody suggested getting any weapons yet? I know that they're just actors, but Steven doesn't know that they're just actors. He could at least ask, and then Ian would be like, oh no, there's no point because there's too many of them, you'll die immediately, it's best to just run. That would have made sense. But that never even happens, which just confuses me because my first thought would be to pick up the heaviest object and just start swinging it around. They're zombies. I mean, everybody knows how to deal with them. At least the theory of how to kill them. If he did actually like bash in a zombie's skull because he didn't know it was an actor, he thought all of this was 100% real, would he go to jail? Because this is probably the only scenario I could ever think of where I would think that is completely unfair. But then Steven is faced with another difficult situation.
What? That is not a scratch with glass.
That is a scratch with glass?
That's a scratch with fingernails. What? Are you infected?
Oh, hang on.
Are you infected?
Look. No! I climbed through a window, I broke the pane of glass in the window, right? And then there was a bit jagged, I smashed it off, climbed through and I brushed my arm against it.
You're out of here!
Ian has taken a step back now, so it's just Steve there to decide what to do about this guy that might be infected. Should he just throw him out? Should he quarantine him until there's proof that he isn't infected? Or should he do the absolutely genius idea of completely ignore it and just work on the shortwave radio? Having a possible infected person in your safe zone is literally the most pressing matter possible in this situation. Do at least something about that instead of just guest appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast. But they do get a response over the radio.
Stephen Brosnan!
Yes?
Is your mother Jacqueline Brosnan?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Your family here are safe. We will send a helicopter at 1600 hours.
So now there's a helicopter coming to get them, and I'm sure there's absolutely no way that can go wrong. We fast forward to the next day, and the first order of business with Steven in charge is to create a giant SOS signal for the helicopter that already knows their location. When Ian's wife suddenly arrives...
Ian! Sarah! Ian! Sarah! Ian! I told you she would come! I told you she would come! Yippee!
But good times don't last in the apocalypse, and she is already infected. So Ian decides to leave to be with and eventually die with his wife. And my god, the actor who plays Ian puts his absolute all into his performance here.
And you're going to change your life. You're going to change your life, okay? You get on the helicopter, do you hear me? Stephen, it's down to you now, mate. You've got to do it. You can do it. You can do it. You hear me? You can do it! Sarah! You stay there! Come here!
Leaving Stephen as the only possible leader. And to be fair to him, he bounces back from that stuff really well. He gets everyone straight back on task to get everything sorted for the helicopter's arrival. Then they get Leona to basically spell out the intentions and desired results from this experiment, whilst doing a visual diary for her parents to see if they somehow find that camera.
Hi, Mum. I just want to let you know how much I love you. I appreciate everything you do for me. And I don't think I tell you that enough. I'm sorry I haven't been all that helpful, but I promise when I see you again, I'll help out more. I'm gonna be the best possible person I can be.
Just to really get Stephen thinking about how ungrateful and selfish he was being in the before times. And it works. They even delay the helicopter pickup time to allow him to really process and go through all of these emotions and change as a person. After all of that though, the infected breach the defenses and start breaking more and more into the compound, just as the helicopter arrives. But it lands outside of the compound, away from the infected, so Stephen has to figure out a way of getting around or through all of the infected. They suggest someone being a distraction so that the others can get to the helicopter more safely. But surely the helicopter would be distraction enough? Zombies love attacking loud noises, and that helicopter is basically just a JBL speaker. Stephen does distract them, but Leona hid instead of running like a fucking idiot. That's why you don't keep kids around in a zombie apocalypse. But this is obviously set up to see whether Stephen will go and save her, or just bolt to the helicopter and save himself and get to his family. But he does go back for her, and now they're both stuck in the compound, surrounded by even more infected than before. So Derren puts in the idea of Stephen getting to the helicopter and getting them to land in the compound to save her. And it is kind of annoying how in all of these very critical, decisive moments, it's Derren himself who suggests all of the plans through like the other actors, because Stephen just can't think of anything in those moments. But he does do it, and he is hard into the adrenaline of this.
Granny's still inside, she wouldn't go with you, you fucking left her!
Well, I didn't mean, I lost her, man! I'm not that guy, alright? I'm not that guy who goes back, I can't do it, alright? You are, alright? I know that, okay? I'm selfish, I always have been, I always will be, I just don't have a heart. And you do. I'm never gonna change, mate. Look at me. Go and save her.
It is genuinely really cool to see someone's real reactions to an apocalyptic situation, and how it actually changes you as a person. The helicopter wouldn't do it though, so Stephen decided to get back off the helicopter, sacrificing his way back to his family, so they leave and the zombies have fully breached the compound surrounding Leona. He gets chased back in, and with all of these emotions and adrenaline running so high, he records his visual diary for his family.
I just want my mum to know that I love her. Absolutely love you. Dad, you've always been too kind to me. You've always helped me out. You've always been relaxed, and you always tried to make me smile. Carly, you always try to understand what I'm talking about. You always try to get interested, even though I think you're being sarcastic in most of the things I'm interested in.
I also think it would have been a really cool but super fucked up idea for them to do if they had Ian and his wife be like some of the zombies in the compound that break in to try and kill them. That would have been really fun to watch, but that probably would have just shut Stephen down, to be honest. And now, with only one option, they set off for their walk to Wales. Only for Derren to knock Stephen out through the phone. He can do it through phones? If he's this good at hypnosis, how isn't he controlling the world right now? That's genuinely a superpower. But Derren takes him away from the wasteland and puts him back in bed with his phone, and he wakes up and he's loving his family and everything. It's very Christmas Carol, to be honest. And having gone through all of that and then walking in and seeing Derren just stood there.
When I walked into the living room and saw Derren, it was a different kind of relief. Just knowing that it was real and it wasn't a dream, and those emotions that I felt were real, it was reassuring.
That's the only possible reaction, to be fair. Just, oh, fuck you, man. A month later, they have a debrief, and Stephen explains how much it has actually impacted and changed him.
And you're the only person that can really answer this. Has it really changed you?
Oh yeah, of course. It's made me feel a lot more confident, a I feel like now I'm more engaged with life, and I feel like I can actually take more chances now without the fear of failing.
So if you're anybody who's kind of wasting their time and doing nothing and being a knobhead to everybody, force them through the most stressful situations possible and take away everything they have ever loved. Then they'll change. And that was Derren Brown's Apocalypse. I mean, I remember really enjoying it, and I still really enjoyed it. I think it's a great idea for a show. Derren Brown is the Nathan for you of fucking with your head. The only thing that always takes me out of this and makes me doubt it is the hypnosis stuff. And to be honest, this was always an issue for me. Even when young baby boy me watched this, I just could not understand the hypnosis part. All of this stuff will be happening and you'll be like, oh damn, yeah, that dude 100% believes this. And then Derren knocks him out in half a second and walks him to another location, changes him, gets him into bed without him waking up. Maybe I'm just too close-minded for this, but it just really puts the entire validity of it in question for me. And I obviously wasn't the only one. There was a lot of scrutiny from loads of different news outlets of people accusing this entire thing of being fake, but there was never any solid evidence to prove it either way, so we still don't really know. But if it is fake, then Stephen is an incredible actor, because his reactions to everything seemed fueled purely by emotion, so it seemed real. I just pray that it isn't fake, because that would really ruin this for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel, and I really do appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, then I will create a personalized apocalypse just for you, for the mere price of £2,462,090. Have a great day. Oh, I really need a wee.